Are NBA player podcasts good for the league, for players, for media, and even for the game itself? And the reason why I asked this question is because I've been seeing a lot of, athletic podcasts, the Jeff Teague podcast, Club 520, uh, Draymond Green and Baron Davis podcast. We have Gil's Arena podcast. Every player now seems to be retiring and having a podcast. Even Steve Nash and LeBron have a podcast. And it just got me thinking, like, are these good for players? Are these good for the NBA? Because, I see a lot of guys start off their podcast by saying, I want something for the players. I want this to protect the players. I want this to actually speak up for the players in the game, this, that, and the third. And then later on, you get to see these players that they're supposed to be protecting come out and be like, these guys became media and switched up on players. They turned their back on players. They're doing this for money. They're doing this for attention. So how much of this is actually good for players and how much of this is not even working? And what is a problem with this? And to be honest with you, I'm just giving you my thoughts. Like, this is a question that I was just curious about. And I was like, you know what? Let me just make a video about this and ask y'all about this and just lay out my thoughts in the video. And you guys let me know down below if y'all think these podcasts are good for players, for the league, and for media or not. Because obviously, everybody knows the famous quote, new media, that came from Draymond Green. Okay. And as much as you would like to say that, players have new media, players have, new voice, this, that, and the third, media will always be media. Like, I think Stephen A. Smith or whoever's on live television, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, whoever, they can come out here and run a narrative how media does, and it's actually going to go somewhere. I don't think NBA player podcasts can come run a narrative and it's going to go somewhere. I mean, it gets clipped, right? People watch it, people laugh at it, some people argue about it, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. Like, if Stephen A. Smith comes out and he's like, I don't know, he just says something about somebody not winning a championship. Like, I'm going to make a video about this too. But let's say he comes and he's like, Devin Booker should not have signed a 2-year, $145 million contract because he didn't win a championship. He could find ways to run that story and make it, kind of convincing. And people will actually run away with it. NBA podcasts, I feel like people tune in more because of the player, obviously, but because there's stories that are told. There's, a player's opinion. It gives you like an insider point of view of what athletes think in the game. Like, for example, I love watching the Club 520, especially when Teak starts and Mook start getting into like, the salary stuff and how players think when they're about to sign contracts and just how players really view each other, view the team and stuff like that. I think that's very interesting. And things like this make me think, how beneficial is this for people that are actually playing right now? Like, how much does somebody who's playing right now watch these podcasts instead of just seeing ESPN? Because players have admitted that they watch First Take, that they watch ESPN as a whole, that they used to watch, the shows on TNT. How much of this is beneficial? And how much of this do they actually care about? How much of this do they actually believe and watch? And I understand for some parts, like, for example, the LeBron James and Steve Nash podcast. Even before that, the LeBron James and JJ Redick podcast. I completely understand that type of podcast. When they come out here, they're giving, play-by-plays. They're speaking about the games. They're breaking stuff down. I understand that type of podcast. But the podcasts that come out and, claim their media and this, that, and the third, how much are people actually tuning in for media? And how much are people just tuning in just to see what this player thinks? Like the Jeff Teague podcast, I tune in specifically because it's pure entertainment. Like, I think right now that's the best hoops podcast out. You got Teague, who's actually, giving crazy takes, honestly, sometimes. Like the other day, you gave a take about Kobe. I understand it. Once you really think and you understand and you listen to what he had to say, his takes aren't that crazy. But on first hand, when he first starts it off, the headlines do be crazy. Behan, wild card. But it's entertainment. You got DJ, He be having his moments, but he's like a moderator. And honestly, I think it fits very well with them because the energy is really good and it just fits so well. And then, Mook, obviously, they brought him on the show and it's just been great ever since. And then you have the Draymond Green show, who I think he likes to keep it pure basketball. You don't really get too many clips that go viral from there because there's no like wild card over there. There's no like that wild piece that's gonna give you the clips that people love to see nowadays. And then you go to like the Gills Arena, and honestly, bro, every time I tune in, it seems like there's an argument, a fight. Like it seems like a bunch of old heads just arguing, bro. There's a time where I actually used to love watching Gills Arena, and from time to time now I still tune in, but I do think there's a lot of arguing that goes on over there more than podcasting, which I don't know. Like, I guess that's their model. Like, that's just how they do it. And everything comes off naturally, obviously. And nothing seems to be, like, planned because sometimes it does go too far, in my opinion. But they do kind of, like, there's a lot of passion in that. Like, there's a lot of passion in what they do, what they talk about. And sometimes they clash heads and, old heads. And they just go crazy. But, like, how much do players view that? And just talk about, like, for example, when they were talking about Karl-Anthony Towns and kind of trying to speak like how he does. Some people might call it mimicking. I think we were just trolling. But how much is he focused on that? How much does he care? Because these are guys that they see. These are guys that they know, that they've been known. So how much does this actually benefit players? How much do they listen to? How much do they focus to on it? And even y'all, like as the fans, how much do y'all care about these stuff? Like, how many of y'all actually go on 520 and think to yourself, like, damn, I never thought of the game like this? Or you go on Draymond Green show, like, damn, I never thought of the game like this. I remember when Draymond Green was breaking down, I think it was game 3 or game 2 of the NBA Finals this year. And he was talking about, like, the Thunder and the Pacers and how the Thunder were doing pick and rolls with J-Dub and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they were just getting plays off of that and buckets off of that. And I was like, damn. Watching the game, I was so into the fact that the Thunder just collapsed as an entire team. I mean, that the Pacers just collapsed as an entire team defensively and all that I didn't even think that deep into it. Like, I didn't really care too much about that, because I'm like, they just honestly collapsed. Like, okay, pick a roll, stand at third, but they collapsed. But when I seen him talk about it, I realized, I kind of stopped and I took a step back and I realized, like, how important that was to the game. And that is the reason why they collapsed. Now, obviously, there's other stuff that come to it, this, stand at third, but there's a lot more things that play a factor into it. And I feel like players like Draymond Green, they break that stuff down. LeBron James podcast with Steve Nash, that's like if you want to learn. I don't know how much of that is for the players, and how much of that is actually for the guys, that want to come up, and girls too. And also, like, how much of this is actually practicing in practice. Like, when LeBron James, I always hear him say the same thing. Guys will run a play on one side and they don't know how to run it on the other side. And it's like, all right, cool. We heard that so many times now. Why do we know that more than they know that? Are they not tuning into the podcast? Are they not watching the videos? Are they not, like, what is it that they're not doing that they can't implement that into their practices? Because I pretty much got that down. And that's why it got me thinking to myself, like, how important are these podcasts for the league? For media, can y'all see a world where these podcasts take over? Where they become more bigger and more important than ESPN? Than all the shows, all the sports shows on ESPN? Is it possible? Let me know, chatting down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. This will Talk E. Safe.